Hi, I'm Latesa, and I would like to welcome you to DVAM, Domestic Violence Anonymous Ministry. This is our very first episode, and we're with Church of God, the Bible Way, with Apostle C.A. Coward and First Lady Coward. And we would like to let you know that your lives will be changed, forever changed, impacted through great testimonies that will happen on this podcast. Go tell a friend, go tell a loved one, anyone that you think will be affected by this ministry, this episode, and there are 4 or 5 more to come. So stay tuned to DVAM. We are about to do our question and answers at this moment. So be patient and enjoy.
Okay, what inspired you to start a movement for Domestic Violence Anonymous Ministry?
My inspirement of wanting to start this was seeing so many other hurting women, so many other hurting children, even people that are of age, hurting and in like a prison in their minds, and just so angry, so frustrated. And it's so needed. It's so many people, like every 7 minutes, someone is being abused or killed in the United States due to domestic violence and due to not being aware, and people all in the hustle and bustle of their lives and not concerned for the next door neighbor.
And can you relate to women that have went through abuse or molestation or rape?
Most definitely can relate to molestation. Most definitely can relate to molestation at an early age, abuse, just getting out of abuse, domestic violence abuse, abuse to yourself by entertaining and staying in those type of relationships are very dangerous to your life and the life of the other person as well.
Do you have advice for women going through abuse?
My advice to that person is to get a voice, to get in a word-based church, to begin to have a prayer life, to begin to pray, to have a voice to go tell, get counseling, spiritual counseling, call 911. Don't hesitate, don't hide it, don't be ashamed of it, get help.
Why do victims return or stay with their abusers?
They return because of the emotional ties. They return, some of them, because of them having children with that person, because they are not having somewhere to go. Insecurities, soul ties. What was the other question?
What resources are available for victims?
The resources that are available to them, we have resources here at the church, but also Peace River have resources for people to have a place to stay, to start over again, to get some continued education, which we have here at Church of God, the Bible Way. You can get your GED if that is what you're in need of. Continued education, CNA, certifications, home health. It's a various ways that you can get resources to help yourself out of your situation. Don't let your lack of be your dilemma.
That's so true and that's so powerful. How common is abuse in intimate relationships?
Very common. A lot of them start out in a small manner of verbal or just physical. Not physical. It starts out with psychological abuse, saying things, demeaning things, belittling things, saying things in jokes, and belittling you and your thoughts, and having you not to act like you have good ideas. It's small things, but it can turn into physical abuse.
What can the church do for victims?
Our church, Church of God, the Bible Way, We can help you with your spiritual side as well as your natural side. We have resources for you to get clothing. We have resources also for shelter. We have other resources that can be tapped into for other needs. We have spiritual counseling that's available, preventive measures, counseling for the children as well as the adults that are involved in the situations.
And do you feel personally that abusers can change?
I'm certain if they get the Lord in their life and they get deliverance, yes, they can change.
Can you tell how you overcame any trauma or abuse?
Yes, it'll take a minute, but yes, I can tell my testimony. I can tell from the beginning, like the title of the episode is the abuse, the abuse before the birth. The meaning of the title, what God gave me, is a lot of times when we're born, we're already born into sin, but a lot of times you're born with generational curses waiting outside of the womb for you when you're born into this world. Well, I have a mom that got pregnant at the age of 12 with me, but she also had a dad that was a molester and a raper that did these terrible things to her. So then on my father's side of the family, molestation happened to them as well. And so when I was born, I came into rejection because my father rejected me as before I was born, because they was assuming that maybe I could have perhaps been my grandfather's child due to the molestation and the rape. So as my mom goes on, instead of her getting help, at a church or whatever, the pregnancy probably was hidden or whatever because she had to be abolished from school. Those are the things they did back then in that time. You weren't able to go to school with everyone else. You got punished, even though, when she got pregnant it was from my dad, but still, it was an uncomfortable situation for her to be so young and had to deal with all of that she had to deal with. So I came into this world already rejected, came into this world with generational curses already waiting to pounce me. And so then my mom eventually at some point she got married to my dad, and then as time went on, at some point in my life, my dad started to put his hands on me in a sexual manner, in a way that was not appropriate for a father and a daughter relationship. And I remember as a child, my mom told, and I had to be about 2, maybe 3, telling him that he was not able to bathe me any longer or what have you. And then I remember as a child growing up, we going to Head Start, and those are the hours of the times, if you watch children when it's nap time, those are the times when activity begins to happen, sexual acts happen, because those are the times when children display the things that have happened to them by adults or other children that have touched them in their lives. So those things displayed between me and other children at nap time. But instead of those teachers or people that was over us telling or being mandated reporters as they should, no one told. Life went on. Keep on going down this journey. I guess about 9 years old maybe. My mom had my grandmother, my great grandmother and herself. They were in the formal living room. They were just engaging in conversation, and me, my sister, and my father, we were in the family room looking at TV, and my dad began to play, I call it the pedophile game. He began to play this game where you put your hands out and then they slap your hands, and then he grab you, and then he grabbed me and sat me on his lap. And as he did this, it was a very uncomfortable situation because he began to grow and I began to feel him. And my sister began to want to engage in this game, and I told her, no, it's not a game that you want to play. So later on, I went to my room. My mom, my grandmother, and my great grandmother, they were still present. And so I went to the room and went to bed. That night, my dad came to my room, leaving the bedroom from my mom to come into the room with me and pass by my sister's bed to get to me. And then he touched me, he woke me up, and I started screaming. And he said, I don't want you to wake your mom with your screaming. And I said, oh, I want to wake my mom. So from that day, my life was never, ever the same. So the next day, my mom got ready to go out, and she was going with my grandmother. And I even remember the car that they were driving. It was a brown Toyota Corolla. And then before she was leaving, because this is when I felt all kind of fear and everything, because she was leaving me there with him. And I was telling her what he did to me. And she still proceeded to go to the Bucks game. And she left me there with him, and I was just terrified to be left with him. So it was a trip to know that she didn't do anything. But then if you look back, hindsight of all that happened to her, she was stuck, and she probably didn't think this would happen to her children. Well, it only happened to me, even though it was two of us in the home, but he only tried to molest me with no penetration. But it doesn't matter if penetration takes place or not. The touch, the perversion touch, is an awful thing to a child. And you go throughout your life, and you go down so many dark roads. It took me down roads of depression. It took me down roads of insecurities, having trust issues, because trust was broken by someone that's supposed to be your father. That's the person that you're supposed to fall in love with. The very first man in your life supposed to have such an impact on your life. Well, he did an impact that wasn't great, that was horrible, that I lived my life always feeling like I was on the run, literally on the run, because I'm always running from my dad, because I didn't want him to be the first person that touched me sexually, that penetrated me. So that looked like, okay, people see you as a child, and you always here and there. So it took you down the road of being promiscuous and being with this one and that one, but older people looking at you like, oh, that girl, she's so fast, she's just so horrible. But instead of engaging in conversation, asking what's going on, me, myself, I told people, and no one still did not assist me or help me. I went to churches, telling pastors, ministers. I even called the police on my dad at the house in his face, and let them know what he did to me, but to no avail. I got no help even in that situation. And they only said to me is, he's a Baptist pastor, so there's no way a Baptist pastor did something like that. So hindsight of that was later on, I found out most of the people that I did share my story with, those people were guilty of the same thing. And as time go on, I began to hate my father because of the situation I was put in. Even at about 10 years old, at 10, I tried to take my life, because I asked God, how could a God like you put me here for such a thing to happen to me by my own father, not a stepdad, not somebody else's dad, but my own biological dad did this to me. And I tried to take my life more than once, but to no avail. I took my mama pills, nothing happened. The EMS came out. They only simply said the next time my mom, or if I call call 911, that I would get a charge for falsifying a report. So I just was outdone. I was like a muzzle was put on my mouth as a child. Like, who do you tell when no one helps? No one on neither side of the family or no one in the community where you supposed to have a village that help raise the kids. But what if you're the one, the problem that is raising your children and touching and molesting your children? So that's where my road took me to so many dark roads, took me to depression, frustration, hatred. As time go on, you begin to hate your other parent, because as time go on, my dad was the one that was abusing me. He wouldn't abuse my mom. My dad would tie me up to tables and tie me up with fishing rope and beat me unmercifully and tell me the reason why he's beating me the way he's beating me because he had a friend that when they were younger, he got his eye knocked out with a belt buckle. Okay, but while I'm being beat at this moment, my mom is sitting there watching it like it's entertainment. And in the Bible, the spirit of Molech is related to the molestation spirit. And the Canaanites are the ones that burnt their children. And as their parents watched, I did some studies, but it was horrible to be beat in that manner and to know that no one came to my rescue to help me in the time that I truly, truly needed help. It sent me into a true depression where at the age of 15, I did not want to even attend school no more. I went within myself. Like if I can imagine a hole in the floor, I would try to go in that hole because I didn't want to exist in this world any longer because it just wasn't good for me. Even though on the outside to everyone else's eye, they thought our family was the perfect family. Oh, we had the white picket fence, the 2 kids with the dog, but it was far from the truth. And I just wanted to praise God for just saving me through all of these times and toils that my life took. And I went down so many roads of just running from him or escaping through, running away, trying to get away from him, trying to not let him be the first person that has me sexually. And then to go through all of this time, he's leaving my mom, he's coming back, he's leaving my mom, he's coming back. So that took me to a road of not having respect for neither parent because I never was able to have a relationship with either one of them because our family was so dysfunctional on both sides. My grandfather, he was a molester too. A lot of this stuff went untalked about, unsaid. Oh, it's all a secret. But I come to say, tell your secret, unveil your secret. Tell your story. So my thing is the abuse that I received, the molestation part of it, and all of that I received throughout my childhood life led me up to roads of alcohol. I started drinking alcohol. I experienced it at a young age, but I really started drinking alcohol at the age of about 34, 35, when I really started drinking alcohol heavily. Because the doctor said, well, you can take sleeping pills or whatever. But every time things happened to me, it just triggered me back. And that road also took me to anxiety and insecurities and all kind of things it took me to, and falseness, false love, because I was in this relationship and that relationship, but never got healed from the very first relationship, was the relationship with my father. I never got healed from that. It took me up into the age of 48 to get some deliverance from him. But as I'm running to different men, but not realizing I'm running to that same spirit, that same abusive spirit. Because normally, if you're dealing with an abuser, a lot of times your abuser have been molested or abused as well. So I never got totally delivered into this end of my relationship with the person that I was married to. It took me to the end of running from God. And I thank God, because in this relationship, because I was so familiar with seeing blue and purple marks all over my body, it made me feel that it was okay, like it was love. But that's not love. Love don't hurt you. Love don't beat you. And then, we can look at even Christ, where Christ was beaten in all points. Like he, in his life, everything that we have experienced, so has Christ. Christ have also experienced domestic violence by his own people beating him, portraying him, talking about him, stripping him down naked, piercing him in his side. All of this happened to Christ, so he understands domestic violence. But through all of this, we can get healed. But through my domestic violence situation and my disobedience was trying to find a man because I wanted someone to be with but never know how to love. So I went through disobedience by not being married, by getting married numerous of times, and not heeding to what Apostle Coward said, not wanting to receive the message that's in the Bible that tells you one wife, one husband. No, I didn't want to receive that message. That was a bit much, because I thought it was a bit much because I never knew what love was. I never knew how to love because I never had a love relationship with my own father. So I got into this last relationship, and it took me to my lowest point, to my darkest road, to my darkest hour, where I was unable to even have a voice, unable to really even think. My mind was failing me time after time. And this last time I got the gun pulled on me, he pulled the trigger. No bullet came out. God spared my life to be able to be here on this very first podcast to tell my story about what happened to me because of the molestation. It takes you down so many dark roads, so many crooked turns, where some people are not in my position. Some people are walking around, they done lost their lives. They done lost their lives in the domestic violence. They done lost their lives because they couldn't deal with the molestation that took place with them. They done lost their lives because they're in jail. They killed the abuser. So it's many turns that this life can take you if you don't forgive. And the key to this thing is you gotta forgive the abuser. You gotta let it go. You gotta let the bitterness out your heart. You gotta let God feel the voice in your life. If you don't, you're not gonna be any good to nobody, and not even to yourself. That causes a lot of people to come up with cancer and stuff, living with unforgiveness and bitterness in their heart. A lot of people, where you see them in nursing homes all by themselves, it's because they so hateful towards people. Nobody want to be around them. They can't even stand themselves. So I just thank God for my story, for my journey. I wouldn't take nothing back for it. Yes, it's hard to know the roads that it has taken me down, that I repeated life just as my mom did to me. I don't have a relationship with my children. I have been a parent to them, but I didn't realize that I was not a mother. And a mother with title, but a mother without relationship. You can't do something that you don't know how to do. So, I talk to my children and stuff, but I still have one child that is not in compliance with forgiving me for not having a relationship or whatever. But we are all grown now, and I am trying to, through the help of God, right my wrongs. But these are the roads that take you down, and you gotta want to get total deliverance. And once you start getting deliverance, once God start making, molding, and shaping you, pouring into your voids, you start opening your eyes to see where you're wrong at. You got to be big enough or humble enough or meek enough to go back to these places and say, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was that person, because at that time I was so toxic. I didn't know. All I was doing is being on survival mode, trying to survive through everything, through the drugs, through the alcohol. I wasn't on drugs, but alcohol is just like a drug. It alters you. It alters your thinking and everything, and open the doors to the spirit world. And it have you, not remembering things and stuff. So, on that domestic side, I feel that I put myself into harm's way simply because of not listening. A lot of times things that happens to us, it happens because we don't listen, or we're not ready to hear what someone has to say when it's dealing with our situation, because we want to feel what we feel. But when you open up your eyes and see that you just was in a horrible situation, that was nothing but a setup and a distraction from the devil from the beginning, because the devil seen and peeked into your future before you was born. He already knew how great you was gonna be, so he set so much decor in the way, so many distractions, so many oppositions, that he wanted you to give up before you got to the great person that you're supposed to be in God. So never give up on trying to get delivered. Never give up on trying to get to the forgiveness, because people tell you all the time, you got to forgive that person. My thing was my whole life, how? I want to forgive. How do you forgive? It took a lifetime. I would tell myself, oh, I forgave him. And every time I come around my dad, I would feel so uncomfortable because I didn't forgive him for what he did. I wanted him to say he was sorry. And even if he said sorry to this day, it would not make a difference in nothing today. But most cases, abusers will tell you, after all that inflicted wound they did to you, that hurt, that pain, that trauma, they'll tell you, I'm sorry if I've done something to you. You're going to have to learn how to deal with that part of it too. If you never get sorry told to you, you're going to have to learn how to deal with that as well. Because God is so good that even the Jews today have not repented for what they did to Christ when they crucified him. He's waiting for them to do that. So you can wait for a lifetime. You may never get sorry to you from that person that abused you, but release them so that you can be released. Release them because you want to be used by God. We can't be used if we're bitter. We can't be used if we're filled with poison in us. We have to release the poison out of us so God can be able to use us, so we can go get others that are like us. Because our next episode is the mirror. It's so many people that have this same image in their lives. It might be not be just like it happened to you, but it is so many people that are hurting, that are sitting right beside you in church, that are sitting beside you at work, your neighbors' children. It's so many broken-hearted people, and they're ashamed of their abuse. They're ashamed of being molested. They're ashamed to tell their story. But this way, we can make it possible for somebody not to be ashamed to tell their story. Okay, it is not something to be ashamed of. This is a part of life, unfortunately. It happens more than often, more than I care to say, with children being molested and taken advantage of. So I just want to thank God for allowing me to be able to be used by him, to be able to tell my story. And I have no shame in me to tell my story. I thank God for this opportunity to tell my story.
And that was very powerful, and that was very deep. The last question is, how can the mental, emotional, and spiritual side of your life be affected through such pain?
How can it be affected?
The mental, emotional, and spiritual side.
It can be affected if you don't allow God to allow you to pour out. The mental side can be affected through the thoughts, the bombarding thoughts that keep coming to you from the time you was touched, and everything. So you got to let God heal your body, spirit, soul, and body. So you got to do self-care. You got to do prayer, spiritual therapy through your prayer life. You got to be consistent with your prayer life. You got to love yourself. You got to know that God wonderfully, fearfully made you, that you're made for a purpose, that God values you, that you're meant for this kingdom, that you are a crayon, and you may be broken at this moment, but I tell you what, broken crayons still write. They still can color. You can use a broken crayon. You can melt it down and you can mold it into another crayon, or you can put them all together. You know what I'm saying? So you are like a diamond in the rough. So you got to get to know who you are in God. All of those insecurities, you need to ask yourself, why am I insecure? You know, why am I dealing with this? Why am I dealing with that? Ask yourself, so you can ask God, because He the one who made you. And as you go through this, just keep identifying the issues that you have in your life, and don't just disregard. Ask, learn yourself, learn who you are in God. Take the time to learn yourself. Don't keep on going through life aimlessly. Make purpose on life each and every day to make a difference and be effective in someone's life. Make sure every day of your life that you are a different you, because God is forever moving and changing. We would like to thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of DVAM, Domestic Violence Anonymous. We will be having the second episode will come back on the 4th, Friday, the 23rd of June. The episode name is Mirror, because it's a lot of people that are just like you and I, and we need to help them. Also, we on June, on the 4th Saturday, we will have a unit van that will come out, and we're ministering to the spirit, soul, and body of each person that day. Even men or children are welcome to come out. The unit van will be out to take vitals, to do preventive measures for your health care. We will also have someone there from the marketplace to sign you up for health care as low as $20 a month for your premium. And you will not be disappointed. And I just again want to thank you for tuning in to this episode, and also want to give you our phone number that we are available. You can call 813-317-0542. Any problems, any counseling needs, resources we have available to some people that are in need of resources. And thank you again for tuning in to DVAM.